The Orion Convergence Chamber was designed to intimidate. Its vaulted dome arched 100 meters overhead, glowing with simulated starlight, while tiered galleries ringed the floor where delegates from half the known galaxy gathered. The air shimmered faintly with the hum of translation fields, a reminder that here every word carried weight. Captain Elias Ward entered with steady strides, Kayla at his side. The German shepherd's coat gleamed under the chamber's cold light, her ears alert, her steps synchronized with his. She carried no weapon, no adornment, only the quiet authority of presence. Yet the silence lasted only a heartbeat before laughter rippled through the galleries. "A pet?" sneered a thin-boned SYTH delegate, voice dripping with derision. "Do humans plan to bring livestock next?" Another voice followed, louder, mocking. "Perhaps their beasts will vote for them." The sound swelled, alien throats of every pitch joining, until it rolled through the chamber like storm surf. Kayla's head tilted slightly, eyes scanning the crowd. She did not flinch, did not cower. A low growl rumbled in her chest, quiet, controlled, just enough to cut through the laughter. Elias kept his expression neutral, though his jaw tightened. He touched a hand briefly to Kayla's shoulder, a silent reassurance to her and himself. From the high dais, Varix, scion of the Torvath Dominion, leaned forward. His armor gleamed like obsidian, ridged plates shifting as he moved. His smile was all jagged teeth. "So it is true. The humans cling to lesser creatures for comfort. Tell me, Captain, do you bring her to negotiate in your stead? Or to lick your wounds when your enemies defeat you?" A wave of amusement followed his words. Elias raised his gaze to the dais, voice calm. "This is Kayla. She is not here for amusement. She is part of my crew." "Crew?" Varix laughed, the sound sharp and metallic. "Do you expect us to believe a beast understands duty? She understands it better than many who call themselves leaders," Elias replied evenly. He did not look at Varix as he spoke, but at the chamber itself, letting the words carry. "Where I go, she goes. Where I stand, she stands. You may call that weakness. We call it loyalty." A hush followed, brief but noticeable. Then the laughter returned, louder than before. Elias guided Kayla to the delegation's platform. They stood while proceedings resumed, discussions of trade routes and border disputes filling the air. Elias listened, answered when addressed, but his attention never left the shifting attitudes around him. Some delegates watched with open scorn, others with cautious curiosity. A few, too few, looked thoughtful. Halfway through the session, a commotion broke out near the rear gallery. A small reptilian figure darted between seats, clutching a datapad it had stolen from a delegate's desk. The guards were slow to react. Kayla was faster. Her ears snapped forward, muscles coiled, and with a sharp bark she lunged. Elias's hand released her instinctively. She closed the distance in seconds, cutting off the thief's escape. With precise control she pinned the reptilian against the wall, not injuring, only holding, teeth bared inches from its face. Gasps rippled across the chamber. Elias approached calmly, knelt, and retrieved the stolen datapad. "Thank you, Kayla," he said, voice firm but warm. At the word, she stepped back immediately, returning to his side without hesitation. The guards rushed in to collect the thief, clearly embarrassed. Some delegates muttered uneasily. A few even nodded in approval. But Varix's laughter cut through them all. "A trained hound," he scoffed. "A trick. Nothing more. Do you mean to impress us with parlor games, human? This is a council of empires, not a circus." Elias met his gaze. She acted when others hesitated. She protected what mattered. If that is a trick, it is one worth learning. For the first time, Varix's smile faltered, though only slightly. The session dragged on, hours of debate and posturing. Kayla remained steady at Elias's side, unshaken by the stares or whispers. She sat when he sat, stood when he stood, eyes always sweeping, ears twitching at sounds others ignored. To most in the chamber, she was nothing. To Elias, she was everything. When the day finally adjourned, Elias led Kayla back through the labyrinth of corridors toward the human quarters. The crowds thinned, The jeers faded with distance. In the privacy of their assigned suite, he finally let the mask slip. He knelt, running a hand along Kayla's back. She leaned into the touch, tail wagging once before settling again, her eyes bright and steady. "They don't understand," Elias murmured. "Not yet." Kayla pressed her head against his chest, a silent vow. Elias looked past her, out the viewport where stars burned cold and distant. His reflection stared back, shadowed but resolute. "Let them laugh," he said softly. "They'll learn what loyalty means." Kayla's ears flicked as if in answer. The Chamber of the Convergence had dismissed them as primitives, as children clinging to toys. But Elias knew better. Loyalty was not weakness. It was strength, the kind that could not be bought, threatened, or broken. And when the moment came, he would show them all. For now, he simply sat with Kayla, hand resting on her fur, the silence between them more eloquent than any speech delivered in the council's grand hall. The next day, the Orion Convergence Chamber was no less imposing. Light poured from the vaulted dome, illuminating banners of alien empires that ringed the chamber like a crown. Tension thrummed in the air. Today's session would determine whether humanity gained expanded trade access through Torvith-controlled routes. Every faction knew the stakes. Captain Elias Ward entered with Kayla close at his side. She walked calmly, but her gaze swept the hall as if sensing what he already suspected. The hostility had sharpened. The laughter of yesterday had cooled into something quieter, more dangerous. Varix presided with theatrical arrogance from the high dais, his black armor gleaming beneath the chamber lights. His reptilian eyes tracked Elias the way a predator studied prey. When the session opened, his voice carried like a blade across the floor. "Counselors, before we speak of granting these humans privileges, let us reflect on what they bring to this hall. Yesterday, they paraded a beast as though it were a comrade. Is this the conduct of equals, or children?" Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some nodded in agreement, others shifted uneasily. Elias stood tall, hands clasped behind his back. Kayla sat at his feet, alert but still. "With respect, Scion Varix," Elias answered evenly. "Humanity does not measure strength by disdain for loyalty. Kayla has saved lives aboard ship, tracked survivors in collapsed colonies, and now prevented a theft in this very chamber. Her presence here is not weakness. It is proof of what we value." Varix leaned forward, lips curling. "You hide behind sentiment. We command fleets that blot out suns. We hold worlds in chains. And you offer us affection. Affection is not what kept her standing when fire tore through a collapsed hull," Elias countered. "It was discipline, instinct, and a bond no threat could break. That bond makes us stronger than you realize." A hush fell. For a moment, it seemed Elias's words had struck deeper than Varix expected. Then the Scion laughed, low and cruel. "Fine," he said, voice dripping contempt. "Let us test this claim." The session adjourned for recess. Delegates filed into adjoining corridors, their whispers following Elias like shadows. He guided Kayla through a side hall toward the human quarters, but halfway down the passage, armored figures stepped from the alcoves. Torvith guards, tall, ridged, weapons humming with contained energy. Varix emerged behind them, his stride deliberate. The corridor's glow panels reflected off his armor, making him seem carved from obsidian. "You speak of loyalty," Varix said softly, almost kindly, though his eyes burned with scorn. "But loyalty means nothing when tested. Let us see how long your beast stands when true power moves against her." Elias's jaw tightened. "This isn't the place." "It is precisely the place," Varix replied. He gestured. 2 guards stepped forward. "Seize it." Kayla's growl rolled through the corridor, deep and steady. She positioned herself in front of Elias, muscles taut, eyes locked on the advancing soldiers. "Stand down," Elias ordered, his voice sharp, not to her, but to the guards. They ignored him, closing in. "Touch her," Elias warned. "And you'll regret it." Varix chuckled. "Do you threaten the Dominion human? With what? Your pet's teeth?" The first guard lunged, staff raised. Kayla met him head-on, snapping the shaft aside with a surge of force. The weapon clattered against the wall. The guard stumbled, shocked by the sheer ferocity of an animal he dismissed as harmless. The second froze, uncertain. The corridor had filled with witnesses, delegates, aides, even a few guards of other species drawn by the commotion. Their eyes darted between the poised dog and the towering scion. "She doesn't back down," Elias said, his voice carrying over the silence. "Not against fire. Not against pain. Not even against you." Varix's lip curled, more snarl than smile. "Then let her prove it." He stepped closer, towering over Elias and Kayla. His voice dropped to a near whisper, but the chamber's hush carried it far. "I will strike you, Captain. Let us see if your beast is truly willing to bleed for you. If she does not, she is nothing. If she does, then you are the fool, for bringing her into dangers she cannot survive." Elias's fist clenched at his sides, but he kept his gaze steady. Kayla's growl deepened, her body angled protectively. "You want a display," Elias said coldly. "But understand this, if you raise your hand, you won't only face her. You'll face me." Varix barked a laugh, sharp and cruel. "Then let the galaxy watch a human and his animal fall together." The scion raised his hand. Energy crackled along his gauntlet, a charged strike meant to stun or kill. The gathered crowd leaned forward, breath caught. Kayla did not wait. Her body tensed, her eyes locked on Varix. Every line of her frame radiated defiance. The moment his strike descended, she would move. The corridor was silent, all sound drained into the gravity of the moment. The sneers, the laughter, the scorn of the council, all of it coiled into this single heartbeat. Elias's voice cut through the stillness, quiet but edged like a blade. "Kayla, stay with me." Her ears flicked at his command, but her stance never faltered. Varix's grin widened. His hand drew back for the strike. And the world seemed to hold its breath. Varix's gauntlet glowed with crackling energy, casting jagged shadows across the corridor walls. His hand rose higher, and the gathered crowd drew back instinctively. Some shielded their eyes. Others leaned forward, unable to look away. Captain Elias Ward stood still, his body angled slightly forward as if daring the strike to fall. Beside him, Kayla's muscles bunched like coiled steel. The sound of her growl filled the silence, low, steady, unbroken. Varix's grin stretched wide. "Let us end this charade." The gauntlet came down. Kayla launched first. Her body blurred forward, intercepting the strike with impossible speed. The impact lit the hall in a flash of blue-white energy. Sparks scattered, hissing against the corridor floor. The gauntlet struck her flank instead of Elias's chest. She staggered but did not fall. Her teeth clamped down on Varix's armored forearm, jaws locking with a force that rattled his stance. The scion snarled in shock, his balance disrupted by an opponent he had dismissed as nothing. Gasps erupted through the crowd. A few shouted warnings, others cries of disbelief. The Torvith guards raised weapons, but Kayla's unyielding grip froze them in place. Elias moved with purpose, stepping between Kayla and the advancing guards. His voice cut through the chaos, steady as iron. "Stand down!" The guards hesitated. This was no scuffle now, it was spectacle, and half the council chamber stood watching. To attack further risked dishonor before every witness. Varix roared, wrenching his arm free. Kayla dropped back to Elias's side, blood at her muzzle but eyes burning with fire. She panted once, then straightened, tail stiff, refusing to show weakness. "You see?" Varix bellowed, holding up the scarred gauntlet. "The beast is reckless. She throws herself into pain for nothing. She is a tool, not a strength." Elias stepped forward, voice rising so all could hear. "No, Scion. She is not reckless. She chose. You struck at me, and she stood in the way. That is not weakness. That is devotion. That is a power your dominion will never understand." The chamber stirred. Delegates whispered fiercely, eyes darting between Kayla and her captain. Some who had laughed yesterday now sat in rapt silence. Varix sneered, but doubt flickered in his gaze. A beast does not choose. It obeys. Kayla growled, as if answering him directly. Elias let his hand rest on her shoulder, steady and sure. You call it obedience because you cannot imagine loyalty freely given, Elias said. But she is here because she trusts me, just as I trust her. She bleeds, yet she still stands. Would your soldiers do the same for you? Not for fear. Not for orders. But because they love you? The word landed like a weapon in the chamber. Love. Many species had no equivalent concept, or had buried it beneath conquest and ambition. Yet they understood the defiance in Kayla's posture, the fire in Elias's eyes. One of the lesser delegates, a gray-skinned Arcali, rose from his seat. His voice quivered, but carried clearly. I saw her take the blow. She could have fled. She did not. That was not obedience. That was something more. Others nodded. A ripple spread, agreement, unease, realization. Varix's face darkened. He drew a second weapon from his belt, a blade humming with plasma. If you think this animal proves humanity's strength, then let her die for it. He lunged. Kayla sprang, intercepting him again. The blade slashed across her shoulder, leaving a searing wound. She yelped but did not falter. With a surge of fury, she drove Varix back, forcing the scion against the wall. Her teeth sank into the plating of his armor, jaws unyielding. Elias seized the moment. He drew his sidearm, not raised, not fired, but held low as a statement. His voice thundered. Enough! The word echoed down the corridor, amplified by the chamber's acoustics. Every eye turned toward him. Look at her, Elias demanded. Wounded, bleeding, yet still protecting me. That is what humanity brings. Not fleets, not domination, but loyalty that no power can buy, no fear can break. You call it weakness. I call it unshakable strength. Kayla released Varix at his command, limping back to Elias's side. Blood darkened her fur, but her head stayed high. The scion struggled to his feet, armor scored, pride shattered. He looked to the crowd for support, but saw only silence. No one laughed now. No one sneered. A council elder rose slowly, her long robes brushing the floor. The Torvus sought to mock. Instead, we have witnessed courage beyond reason. Humanity's bond with its companions is no frailty. It is a force the galaxy would do well to remember. The chamber stirred with agreement. Varix's jaw tightened, but the weight of the council pressed down like stone. He turned, retreating with his guards, his parting glare promising vengeance. The crowd dispersed slowly, whispers chasing Elias through the halls. Some voices carried admiration, others calculation, but none dismissed him now. Humanity had been marked in their eyes, not as primitives, but as something unexpected, something formidable. When the corridors emptied, Elias knelt beside Kayla. His hands moved quickly, checking the burn across her shoulder, the bruises along her ribs. She whined softly, licking his hand as if to say she was fine. You shouldn't have taken that hit, Elias murmured, though his voice broke with gratitude. But you did. Of course you did. Her tail thumped once against the floor. She leaned into him, pressing her weight against his chest. Elias looked past her, out of viewport where stars stretched endless and cold. The galaxy thought itself vast and merciless. But today it had seen something different, something it did not understand, but could not dismiss. They'll never laugh at you again, he said quietly. Kayla sighed, content despite the pain, eyes half-lidded but watchful still. She had done her part, as she always did, as she always would. And in the silence of that moment, man and dog sat together, not as captain and pet, not as soldier and tool, but as partners. Unbreakable.